Hello, my name is Brian Pace, a Table Tennis Test Rider, and today I'm going to review Double Happiness PG9. The first thing you want to know about the PG9 is that it's a 7-ply blade, and there's a lot of construction and care that's been taken into this blade. When you can add 2 extra plies to the blade and make it compliant with 5-ply rackets with regards to weight and thickness of the blade, then you know you're dealing with a high quality racket. Now, this is a Double Happiness racket. That's also a offensive plus, which puts it in the same range as the Hurricane Long. So I'm going to get back slightly different data so that you can see the difference between these faster 7-ply rackets. The first characteristic I want to get feedback on is the ability to loop underspin. When you have a racket that's fast, the challenge that you're going to encounter is how long will the ball stay on the racket. The loop from underspin performed perfectly, as I was able to get my full snap into the loop and maintain control over the power and the arc. The best distance at which my loop functions. The forehand loops and the backhand loops had really solid contact. The blade was really catapulting the ball out at a close distance. When you have 2 extra plies, what you need to be able to understand is, does that warrant standing further back from the table or reducing power? I found that the best range for me was the counter loop, because I was able to open up my entire power and feel comfortable with the control. The last characteristic I want to get feedback on is the ability to loop a flip, and that's a unique situation because the ball is shorter. It's also another one of those situations where, should you modify your effort, or should you add a little bit more spin because you're going to be at a close distance? Okay, I'm back from a practice match with Richard, and I'll give you some interesting feedback on the racket. From a top spin standpoint, it performed perfectly. The only problem that I had was my ability to loop a flip, and that was the concern right from the beginning, because the ball really doesn't want to come down that soon. And I really found that in a 7-game match, I went down 3-1 just because I missed probably 80% of the flips. And by the time I got to game 5, I found the range. This is the kind of racket where you're going to have to decide to pull back on your effort just for that first ball. For the underspin ball, you could possibly pull back from it, but for the first top spin ball, if it's close distance, you're going to have to pull back and spin the ball more. It just wants to stretch a longer distance as far as the trajectory. And again, the reason that you shouldn't be so critical as a person that's watching is because this is me taking a 2-hour training period, and by the end of the match I was totally adjusted to making the loops. And I typically say use a racket between 4 and 6 weeks before you really make a full determination, because you have to make sure that your racket runs the full gambit of all of your shots, and by that 4 to 6 week period, you know how it's going to serve, you know how it's going to serve return, you know how it's going to short push, you know how it's going to soft block, you know how it's going to loop and counter loop, you know how it's going to deal with shots that have a high arc and shots that have a low arc. So this is really the kind of racket that's suited for a player that wants to stay mid-distance. So if you're a mid-distance player that want to add more power to your game, the PG9 is a great choice. Now, if you happen to be a player that does not have as much power and you want to pack more power into your shots, then go to fastpaddle.com and get the PG9 and start looping better today. My name is Brian, and I'll see you on the table.